So let's see. So you could, let's see here. Share screen.
There you go. Alrighty, I got it.
So that's what I built, and then when I came over here and I figured out how to do a super elevation, before I couldn't get the the right side. No, I couldn't get the low side to go to super elevate. It just stayed at -2%. And now it's at 0%, and then it goes up to the super, and then it goes back to 0% at this other end. So I don't know. I think I'm only missing one little thing.
Okay.
When I do the, let's see, I think I did that in, I think I actually had this open. Road network, I think I did that. Nope, that wasn't it.
Maybe just process roads. That also has.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah. Back on the roads. There you go. Right.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So then, yeah. So I was just editing my. Where is it? Oh yeah, this thing's completely different from what I had here. So.
All right, now, is that the right one to have been using? That may.
This center line is, yeah, this center line should be this one.
Okay.
And the design profile should be this one.
All right.
And this is the correct template.
Oops, you just cleared it when you
Oops.
canceled it. Yeah.
That's the right one. And then
All right.
Here's my super. Okay.
All righty. Now, why don't you go ahead and kick out your section files too, so we can take a look at those individually. Down below where it says output. Yeah.
That one?
That and the existing as well. Just call it, you just call it FG if you want. This is the design section, so.
Okay. Now you get to see how bad I am at typing.
That's all right. And then also the existing section. There you go.
Now, interestingly enough, I don't have a. I didn't have. No, wait. Okay, I built the surface from their existing. They had an existing tin lines and stuff like that. So I built the surface, but then somewhere in there it said that it couldn't tie to it. Oh, I know why. On my, that's right. On my template, I did not put. I didn't have it tied at 3-to-1 or 2-to-1 or anything like that, and which I didn't really need to, because like I was trying to do is just build the. I just want to build the bottom subgrade, because that the company I'm working for, they build everything from subgrade, and so I was just going to load my subgrade folder or file and see if I could stake from there when I'm going through all those super, so I don't have to type in, every time I go to a station, it's okay, now it's -3.33, and then it's minus.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, one thing that you can do with those is you could go ahead and build this and output that top final surface, and then you can make yourself, set those separate individual surfaces from the subgrade. Like you can go through and find those lines that make the subgrade polylines and use those to create that as a surface. part of how that needs to happen too is that the subgrade can, it goes out until it hits something. Usually it's that top surface. So wherever that top surface needs to be, if you're in, say, in a fill area, the subgrades, usually would run out until it enters, till it daylights through that fill slope. But then in the cut condition, then you have to, also provide a way for, you don't want to just keep going forever. It needs to go out to, if it has a defined width, then that's where you're definitely going to stop it, then do a turn up, a straight up tie on it. So we'll take a look at all the nuances in the template as well. But let's edit. Well, let me take a look at all of those things. So let's edit your center line. I just want to take a look at, I'm suspecting based on your ST and TS and CS and SC labels that you're using spiral geometry.
No.
No? Okay.
It shouldn't be. And that may be whatever the whatever this thing came out as, it's basically just all the defaults. So
right. Yeah, you see that TS and then SC, that's like tangent to spiral, and then the SC is spiral to curve.
Sure.
So, all right, so let's just hit the edit button real quick on the center line and just let me take a peek at it. So you've got basically tangents and tangent curves between them. Is that
correct?
Essentially it? Okay. So let's exit that. And we'll, and then let's look at the template. Let's edit that template and see what we have. So we've got the, okay, you're just doing the top. Looks like you've got a 20-foot segment at a 2% down, and it's called the ditch front, which would basically be the edge of pavement, right?
Well, like I said, this is subgrade, so
okay.
So so this would actually be where the ballast, where we use a foot of ballast under everything out here. Okay. And so it's basically that's where my bottom rock would meet the ditch and then go up at 4:1 to get to the edge of the shoulder.
Okay, so
in a 2-foot ditch.
All right, so this template then, when you process this is going to go out there and try to grade this surface in, which would be what you would ultimately cut down to start building your road. Is that correct? You're at the bottom of all of your subgrades at this point? Okay.
And so when I slope stake, they want everything to basically to the back of that ditch.
Okay.
And then then I just go up at I just go down at 2:1 and fill at 4:1 to get to that back ditch.
All right. So when you put this template in this list of files and you process the profile design, is that profile also down the however far down your subgrades are?
So
it's not split in half. So okay, and it's right at the center line, so you're down okay for that. All right. Yes. So that would be fine. Now, do you ever need to do anything at all with the top, with the multiple strata underneath? Like you need to compute how much gravel and all that, or is your job at this point done when you stake the subgrade?
No, I stake subgrade and then I'll start. I will have to stake top of the ballast, then top of rock, and then top of base rock. So we have ballast, 6 inches of rock. What do we have? Foot of ballast, 4 inches of rock. So I stake subgrade, slope stake it, then I stake subgrade, then I stake top of ballast, then I stake top of rock.
Okay, so what is your approach there then? Do you rerun this processing with with a different template and the profile raised to the next level up, or how do you approach that?
Well, and that's why I wanted to learn the super stuff, because right now the way I do all this is I do it in the data collector, and I say, okay, I know I'm at subgrade, you know, and at the 2%, it's real simple. I know how far out when I come up a foot at 4 to 1, I'm coming in. You know, I basically run it all in the data collector. So when I go through a super, then I have to change my crossloads every single station, you know, till I get to a full super. So,
all right.
So what I'm trying to be able to do is run this as a subgrade, basically XML file, and then I could stake using an alignment. And then I would, at that point, if I could figure out how to do that, then I would want to at least put the top of ballast and then the top of rock in there. So yes.
Okay, right. Yeah, so to do that, then you would need to rerun this in another process and, you know, raise the profile up to where it now sits on the top of the ballast. Or if your subgrade layers are just squared off at the edges, you could simply raise your surface and then export that one. So now my approach to all of that would be I would build the entire road itself and then output each one of those individual things, and then pull, you know, I would make individual surfaces for those. Or and again, I was asking you a little bit about since you don't use Surf-CE, and I'm not trying to push Surf-CE on you at all, but my approach to that was Surf-CE can take that entire road file and it can separate out those individual surfaces as I choose to do my slope staking.
And I came dangerously close to getting Surf-CE because of that, because I really like the way Carlson works their office software. But I found out that it does not push Trimble robots, which is what I use. And then B, I had the guy come out here from my local Carlson dealer who's over on the Oregon coast, and the owner came out himself, made a special trip out here, blah blah blah. He could barely turn his machine on, and he just completely underimpressed me with how this machine worked. He couldn't get it to turn an angle. He couldn't, you know, I set up a backside and the foresight, and then he sat on, you know, and then we sat his robot on something, and I said, just show me how it turns an angle, because the Trimble is super. And he couldn't get it to do it.
Well, and part of that, I'm going to lay at Trimble's feet, because, and I used to, when I started my, well, I didn't start my surveying career with Trimble, but I started my GPS involvement with Trimble because it was really the only game in town. It was back in '93, I think, when I first moved up to Pittsburgh. And but Trimble has always been so proprietary, and and Carlson in their Surf-CE stuff, they've always been able to just simply, you know, they could reverse engineer the signals out of the Trimble hardware and make their software respond to it. So they would be able to drive those Trimble equipment, whether it's a total station or otherwise. And Trimble, every time Trimble would update their software, they would change the formats to try to break that issue. And so Carlson just finally threw their hands up and said, you know what, if you guys don't want to play, we don't care. You know, we're not trying to take sales away from you. We're trying to, you know, make it so that everybody can have a solution. So any case,
I totally agree with that in Trimble. Let me tell you. So, you know, they always try to get me to buy their Trimble Business Center and then their Trimble Access, and their field survey software is terrible, if you ask me. I've used Survey Pro forever, and they, you know, I know Trimble owns them now, but basically it's the same old stuff, except for, of course, they're taking, you know, like I used to be able to build a super elevation in the data collector. I can't anymore. They took it away.
Right. Yeah. And you can in the other, but still. Um, and you know, that's an entirely different discussion another day. So let's get you a solution. That's what we need to do here. So, all right. So if we look at now, I'm going to go ahead and request remote control just in case I need it for anything.
Okay.
I don't know that I will. You still have control, but I just want to take a look at this.
Okay.
So there's I'm going 20 feet out at that slope, calling it my ditch front. And then I'm going flat for 2 feet at the back of the ditch. Mm-hmm. So when this road is actually built, is this 2%? Does that go all the way up? Like the shoulder is 2%? Or I'm sorry, not the shoulder, that's it, the pavement. So what is your road lane width normally? The finished surface.
Well, the finished grade is 12 feet and then 12-foot half width and then a 2-foot shoulder.
All right, so we're out to 14 feet. So there's 6 more feet where this keeps going.
Yeah, so it's 6 feet at 4 to 1. So
okay.
It's a foot and a half section.
Okay, so this point at ditch front, that's where it's going to daylight through that bank.
Yeah.
Or into the bottom of it. Okay. And then we come here to the back where it's going to start up, and that's where you stop your subgrades. Is that right? And then
yeah, we don't build. Well, they build from the edge of from the front of the ditch, and then they come back and dig that 2-foot bottom.
Okay.
Is how they do it. They're kind of they I don't personally I wouldn't do it that way, but that's the way they do it.
All right. So I'm trying to figure out how to make this process. First of all, it is going to want to try to have a tie into the ground, but I mean you don't have to use them.
Right, and if you look at this right here, you can
so let's
see if I can get over here. You can see that, you know, it built it.
Yeah.
Just to the bottom of that ditch, and it did say I don't have a cut and fill basically when you process it says I don't.
Correct, because part of this processing, it generates reports on volumes of stone and pavement and everything else. So that's part of what it's trying to do. All right, so if it's doing that, and there's also a case if I exit this for a second and come back and show you here, when you hit OK, there is an option right here under the range of stations that you can turn off. See, this is where you can put cut and fill gaps, and you could just put, you know, from start to end, you don't want to compute cut and fill. Okay. And it would, even if you had those side slopes on your template, it would turn off that processing.
Okay.
I like that. And that's there because of, like, if you're doing something and you're going across a little bridge or something that you don't want the side slopes to go out, you can just simply turn them off during those ranges. Okay. So now, oops. Let's see, back to this, and all right, so we got that to that. All right, so ditch front, ditch back. So if I go to my super, so when I'm computing this, my high side pivot point is going to be one of those two. So I'm going to pivot it from that and let this ditch back ride. And then same thing should be here on my low side, I think is the way I want. And then this maximum percent slope difference. So if it has to super elevate enough to where the Z to where this gets raised up more than 7%, and then it breaks over to 0. If this goes to 8, then it's going to raise that to 1% instead of leaving it at 0. You see what that means there?
So we're transitioning. See, I thought I was transitioning at the center line.
Well, you could, but when you transition to center line, this stays alone. This doesn't do anything. So this is the only part that's going to raise is over here. And depending on your, I mean, you could have a super elevation rate that takes you up to, it needs to be 4% instead of 2.
Right.
So it's at -2, it'll come up to 0, go to 2, and then it keeps going to 4. Well, that means this is kind of be at -2 and then up at 4. Whereas if you pivot here, for instance, then these grades are going to come up. And then when this grade matches this grade, at that point, they both start going up.
And
So
yeah, because our full super is -4 on one side and +4 on the other.
Okay.
But
Yeah, -4 from the center out. Yeah, center out -4, and then yeah. All right, so transition from super to normal. Or the outside.
And that's the first time I've seen this thing right here, actually. I don't know where I was, I didn't see it.
And let's see, I think if we just do 1, I think that'll work. Let's try it and see. We're going to make sure we'll give this all a separate set of names and stuff so you don't mess up your production file here. But if we, I think, see if we pivot to super from the low side edge. So
As you can see, did you print out those sheets that I gave you with the super cross slope on?
Yeah, I looked at them. I didn't actually print them. Let me go back to them here. Let's see, miscellaneous tray. All right, so I've got super 8, super begin, super end, and another super end.
So just at the beginning, from 1720, I'm at -2 on both sides, and then that outside it goes to 0 at 17 plus 56, and then it goes to 17 plus 92
at +2. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then basically there's no crown. That's what they mean by that remove crown. And then at that point, the left side and the right side need to transition, one to positive. Well, and I may have had 3. They told me the design originally was 4.4, and then they said no, do 3, and then now they're saying do 4. So we need to do 4 there. So basically, in that 100 and some odd feet, I went to, the whole road was at the same slope, cross slope.
Right.
And then went from a -2 to a -4. Went from, I guess the whole thing was at 2%, and then it went to 4%.
Okay.
So.
All right. So let's see. All right. If this is how our template points are going to respond to that super. We'll come back to this in just a minute. let's save this as, and we'll call this one, we'll just put a mod in front of it. It's modified.
Okay.
And let's exit this for a sec. And let's choose that one. So now we're pointing to that one, and let's do our super elevation. Let's see, let's edit it. Oops, sorry. It was this one, right?
Yep.
And we'll edit that. And that's going to provide your pivot right there.
Okay.
And normal crowns, two lanes.
Now that normal crown, should that be -2?
I think yes.
And I thought I had tried that, but I don't know for sure, to be honest with you. So
yeah. Now here's going to be an issue. You know, I'm say I've got a 12-foot lane. That's fine. How's that going to affect our template? Is not up there with those 12-foot lanes. It's got that 20-foot subgrade width.
but we could do 20, and actually I'd rather do 20. I think is what I originally had in there at some point.
All right, so we'll do that transition part. This is all right. So you're saying 36 feet is you going to allow the transition to start in the tangent part by 36 feet. If you uncheck that, it's going to be in percentage. Either one's fine. We're going to use the 6% maximum super elevation. All right, that should be okay. Let's see what our tables tell us here at 35. And we were here. What's the radius of that curve in there? Do you know, just roughly?
Let's see. It is. These plans are absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I don't really need to know it for sure. I was just wondering if we're.
Let me just find that.
Let me. Let me close this a second, and I will say okay to that. And I'm going to save this as also up here. Just put a mod.
Apparently, they didn't give me a C3.
Well, here I'll find it. That's where I'll find that. So I'll say cancel here. No, we're talking about our first.
Yep, that guy.
Major one is here.
That's a new thing with 21. I don't know if you've noticed that.
This selector.
Yeah.
That's actually not new. It's always been there. That's called the selection cycling.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, and it's.
I've never had it work like that.
Let me see if
until I got 21.
Yeah, so it should be. I think it was available in 20. I use AutoCAD as well as IntelliCAD in various versions, and BricsCAD. I can't remember if they didn't provide it. I thought they did, and I don't even see. See, you're supposed to have a thing to check on and off here if you want to show the selection cycling.
Huh.
See, I don't even see that.
That's the first time I'd ever had it happen. So it took a while to get used to it. It's annoying at first, but I guess I got used to it.
Yeah, it's showing. It's not showing the icon down here unless it's running through this dynamic. Now, yeah, you got your ortho lock on. I thought so. I'm going to turn that off for you right now. I'll turn that on. What is this? Snap settings. All right, that should be all right. Why is that? That's on and off that settings. It really, well, they give you the icon. Oh, here it is, this dynamic mode. That's what I thought might have been happening. But what that is let's say you're just, see, that's this where you can put the input on at the cursor. Yeah. So turn that back on. I am not seeing.
Yeah, like I said, that was all new to me. I'd never seen.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the toggle. It might be here. Let's see. That's probably, oh, here it is, selection cycling. Okay. Cycling method for overlapping control click cycles, multi-click, shift spacebar, visual aids. Enable the visual aids for cycling. That's what you're seeing right now.
Oh.
Okay, so you could also
display a list. There it is. Display a list.
Yep. So if you, yeah, so if you turn that off, but yet, so if I'm going to select this, it's going to come up here. Now watch the icon. Whoops. I guess I got to get something that's multiple. So you see that little icon pops up, says, hey, there's multiple things here. If I select one and I look at my properties now, see that's a line on a layer called triangle lines. If that's not the one I want, I think your settings say control click. So no, what control click? It was control click to cycle. Yeah. If I did multi-click, now shift space bar, that used to be the way AutoCAD used to work. If we set that there, and then if we're getting ready to, if I pick this and then shift space bar, I'm not seeing it cycle. It says enter to select, left click to cycle over overlapped entities. Yeah, see, that doesn't give you a whole lot of feedback. So anyway, if you like it or don't, some people don't like it. It's too much in the way.
Yeah, I kind of got used to it.
So. Yeah, then you could turn that off, or you could do this. Now, if you have this on, there's no real need to have this one on. You don't really need the icon because this pops up when you have it. And then you can choose. Now, some people, you know, so there now, if I click, I'm going to get that and I choose whichever one I want. Yeah. So
I guess you could just go to my center line and read what that curve is.
Oh yeah, you could find
well, there's one that's a polyline, so
that's the one, right?
Yeah.
Select polyline to edit. Well, that one. Yeah, it'd be easier to do it this way. Some people like to keep track of these things by changing the display order. Oops. So anyway, not that one, but that one. So let's just edit that. There we go. All right. So if I'm that little one, there's that big one. Yeah. So it's got a,
Weird, it doesn't have the radius. Can you double click? There we go.
Oh, yeah. So 400 footers. So, all right. So that would be within the range. Let's see now on there. Super elevation. And if I edit these 6% at 35,
And we're max 4.
Yeah, so it's like,
Okay,
you know, between 5.8 and 6%. Now that's using this maximum. So because it's 400 feet, it's so tight that it's going to, you know, really super elevate to go around there using this table. Okay, and if you use this table at 35, then you're going to be, you know, between 3.8 and 4%. So that's going to be, now what happens when you do these, by the way, just so you understand how these work. If I say this is my maximum super elevation of 4%, then what it does is it forces the length of the super elevation to be longer. Otherwise, if it lets me take it steeper, I can get around the curve by shortening that up, but go into a higher bank rate. So any of those are well and good and fine. And what do you say that you're held to 4%?
4%. Yep.
All right, so let's switch it to that and let's see what we get. So we are at a -2, 2 lanes, 20 feet, 35 miles per hour. Now it's not going to, even though I'm using this speed table, it will still compute this, even if it violates the table in a spot or in a particular curve. But it will use those and try to hold to those values. Okay, but otherwise it's going to honor the rest of this stuff. All right, so now let's see what that does. And now when we do that, this now becomes our 17 plus 20, and it's going to go all the way out to 29.
Yeah, that's my end.
68.
But when so double click on that 17 plus 20. And so I feel like this is the information that sets begin transition 17 plus 20. And then station to begin super run in, flat outside lane.
Right. That's where it becomes 0. And there's a little.
Right. So that would be 17
picture.
plus 56.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then station for super at reversed crown rate.
Yeah. So that's where it goes to 2% on the other side.
So that looks like 17 plus 92, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Normal slope.
And yeah, say 35 fours.
Then I'm at 4% full.
Yeah.
Station to begin 1909.
Okay. And that's where it is at full. And that means both lanes now have raised up to 4%.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's going to go
full at 2578.05.
Yeah.
And so I guess I don't think I'm doing a compound curve or a reverse curve.
Correct.
So
no need for that.
For super at reverse crown rate 2695.05,
which is
then 2731.05 for. So basically, I'm just running this thing. Okay. So then when I hit OK.
So you're backing yourself out of it at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so that 2767.05.
And then basically I did the same thing on that one.
And this one is where the next curve?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, it looks to be okay.
But so then I said, okay, that looks right. Saved that, and then, but when I ran it, and then it went back to that 0%.
All right, so let's we'll cancel this for just a second. Now we're going to do this before we make any other stuff here. We'll call this one mod as well.
Okay.
All right. And so now let's see what we get. And we're going start to finish. Everything's good there. Race previous. See, this is where if you were, yeah, you know, you could draw these subgrade polylines. That's where you could pull those separately. You do it by layer.
Okay.
Membership to build those separate. But you know, your approach is fine here too. So if we just want to take that one, so we say okay.
Yeah, I was trying to start simple.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, so we'll call this one.
You can write, and because yeah, you can overwrite that top one.
All right, so that's our subgrade. Yeah, we'll do that. All right. And you've got your contours turned on too, so that's fine. Didn't hurt anything. But so now, what do we have?
So that kind of looks like it might be right.
So what do we have in here in terms of these triangles? Oops, let me turn that back. Oh, those are just lines. They're not triangle. They're not 3D faces. All right. Let's take a look just in general. At what we have here. 10-foot contours. What are they? What's a good contour interval out there? 1 or 2?
Probably 1.
Okay. Let's
it looks like that random. They came out at 2.
Now let's see if we can get some. Give it a little bit of exaggeration here.
Yeah, so they definitely, well, let's see, did it come out at 2? I think it did at the other end.
So then that would have, well, I'll tell you what, let's do this.
Oh yeah, it did. Oh well, at least at the end of the second one it did.
Yeah, let's see here. Where's my, here we go. I don't. That's what I wanted. All right, so. Follow center line. These are existing. Well, I guess we're going to have to switch to that. All right, let's see what that's going to give us. That might be on a, let's see, center line file. And that is that one.
Yep.
And
yep.
Yeah, that's, let me do this one more time. I was looking for, it wants a reference surface, so I'm going to give it this.
Okay, yeah.
Existing, there we go. So now we'll take this one, and the surface we'll use is this one.
Whoa, okay.
And let's see here, what do we got? I'm going to switch. Switch vehicles here. Let's see. I don't just worry about any of that crap. Let's just get it to that. There we go. And let's give it a little bit of transparency and let's give it a bit of vertical exaggeration so we can check on those banks. And let's see if we're the bird or the driver. Maybe that shading flat. I want to be able to see that crown break. It's not real cleverly clear. Let's see here. Let's do flat. It's a little bit better there. Now let's see. Make sure our speed 45. Oops, a little too slow. Let's make it 25. And let's see if we can see the change. If we get down there, we'll also take a look at it. Now it's reporting numbers here too. So come on, what station are we at?
It's a long road.
Yeah. All right, so it's still crowned, and now we're going to start to go in it. I'm going to start to slow this down a little bit. Yeah, it's hard to see.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, it looks like let's take a look through here. It almost looks like it banks in our own direction. That's not right. If I just do a quick profile, surface, yeah, we'll do. And I'm going to go left to right across my road. Okay, so now.
Oh, that's right.
And if I move this thing, no, I got to get up here. I need to adjust it again and make it more perpendicular. And now, oh, I'm going to get out of, there we go. So there we're at normal crown. And as I come to,
What is it? Oh, okay. Well, that must be good because I don't know what I was doing wrong, but felt like I was doing everything we just talked about. But I couldn't get that one side to move.
all right, well, now let's, all right, so we've got some visual confirmation at least on that. Let's take a look at, now was this set to redraw?
No.
Okay, so we'll go back to, All right, so there's that. We'll say okay, let it process again. Triangulation file is here. All right, so it's done its process, and now let's draw that.
I think it's the sud.
Yeah, that's the 548. Are all of these just like you left them?
That was, yeah, that was just, I didn't change anything in there. I just let it do it.
All right, so let's just come here and do it. Can't open file. Ah, okay. It couldn't open this center line because it's looking for that center line. And did we change? I think. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna here it is. Our center line to use. Well, we didn't.
No, that should be.
I thought maybe we renamed that one to mod also. It doesn't look like we did. All right, so if we pick right here. Oh, well, apparently we needed to repoint it. So now let's see what we got.
What is that zero coming out of there? Maybe it's just drawn wrong on here.
Well, it could be. I'm not trying to see where does it come here. Well, that gets into the next one. And then at the end. Left shoulder. Right shoulder. And it bounces back up right there. All right, so that's what that. Let's do the first curve. I know which direction it's going. Let's see here.
But interestingly enough, if you look at the way it drew the contours, it wasn't 0% because it had the crown contours at the beginning of that curve. See, this mine for some reason was even further back.
All right, but this is, see, we're starting at 17, at which point that's 0, and then it still falls here down to -2. And then we get over to here. You see the shape of it.
Actually, run back there to 17 plus 20 real quick, because yeah, 17 plus 20 is where we start our super, and this thing takes it back down to at 17 plus 25. All of a sudden, it takes it to -2, where it should have been -2 the whole time. And maybe I don't know. I'm kind of feeling like this thing's just drawing this wrong.
It might be. Let's take a look at these. I don't want to draw it. I just want to look at it. Let's see. I guess it's this section, file editor. All right, so we're going to look at the existing section, and then we'll also add.
It should, yeah, it's already in there.
Got to where I'll do the design section, and then the reference center line, and then we'll do a reference section of the existing ground. So we've got, I think we're all right. So let's see, let's go all the way up to 17. Whoops, and shit. Let's come down here too. All right, so 17, I'm at 22 feet over. It's flat. Still flat. There's my 2%. There's my -2 and flat. All right, so that I'm okay with. Let's do just let it do that. Show subgrades, which won't matter for us. And then if we go next, oops, previous. All right, so we are at 17 plus 25 at this point. And there's the
beginning.
So it's elevated that ditch. See what it's doing there.
Yeah.
And that's not what we want. So that, because that's a 2%. So it elevated that, kept that elevated till we got here. And it got out to there. And then kept that at 0. So if we do next again, it's now 222. A different one, there's 22200.
So we want this to pivot at that front.
Yes.
Can you put that somewhere?
Yeah. We'll go back and fix that. I want to make sure.
It's weird
now,
the high side's doing it right, but the low side's not.
Yeah, so if we
Where's it tell you what station you're currently at?
up here. Nope. Oh, up here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I had to tell me somewhere. I just couldn't find it.
Yeah. So when it is, where's the other? Yeah. Well, the other curve is also a curve to the left. So that should be the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So for some reason that lower ditch is not working right. Maybe that's why it's drawing it funky.
Right. Now, why isn't design and existing? I don't see the existing section.
Oh yeah, you're right. Reference section.
It's 0.
Oh yeah, but I thought we did run it.
Yeah, we did. Well, we told it to.
Yeah.
So let's see what we got there first. Existing section. Yep, said to kick it out. Do we have right here.
Oh, there we
Existing
go. Yeah.
surface.
Doesn't know what to build it from. There you go.
And it's this one?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we'll come back to that. Let's go to our template series now. Let's see. Let's
look.
See.
Yeah, what did you do there?
If we do this, apparently that -2, it takes it as
a 2. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. All right. So that's all well and good. See, there.
And that's what I originally went right to this, but when you opened it up, you went to that other thing, and and I didn't know where that was.
Well, and that is here in the template. So if you go to the template, see this button that says super?
You went super in there. Okay,
yeah. Okay. And so that's where I said my high side pivot point is my ditch front.
Your low side is also your ditch. So that should be right.
It should be.
But I wonder, okay, so we're going.
Maybe this. Maybe that was what did that. And then pivot to super from the low or inside edge.
So should our max percent slope difference be 8 because we're going 4 on one side and 4 on the other?
No, we should. We're 2 and 2. We're 2 and 2 is 4. And then as we raise that stuff up, it could be 4, and then the bottom out would be 0. So that's still going to be 4.
Okay.
Go across the bottom of the ditch. So that should still be okay. I mean, it could be 4, but this lets it, if it needed to go higher, it could. It's just a maximum.
So I bet you that's going to fix it where where we change that 1 to a 0.
Well, wouldn't that be sweet? All right, so let's say, okay. And let's say go. Oh man. Yeah, okay, I know that. I don't need to see the numbers. And that to that. And let's take a look now at the sections. I edit the design section, and my reference section is existing section. I'm going to come down there a little further. Whoops. There we go. And
there we go. That looks better.
And everything's holding.
So I'm wondering how the super elevation diagram will look now.
So now see, it's all holding that 2%. Now, this is now in full elevation. Is it? No, maybe not quite. Yeah.
Should be like 19 plus 60 or something.
Yeah, there it is. Now I'm in full super. The bottom of my ditch slopes are still flat. That was my intent.
Yeah.
And if that had to raise any higher than that 4%, that's when you'd start to see this slope go with it. If I had 4% as the maximum, I've got 7. So it's going to let this one potentially get all the way up to a 7%.
Oh, I see.
Okay, but it's not. Now it looks like it's steepening, but that's because of this fit. So you can see the number there, yeah. All right, so then it should start coming down. I think that's got what we want. All right. Now, one thing too, I wanted to show you on that when we do this, let me see if this is where it's going to be. Yeah, so what caused that problem the last time was I had set this, it said the low side grades to match the greater super elevation slope. We've only got 2 grades over there. We've got that first one.
Okay.
And then we got the 20-footer.
Wow.
So that's when I set that to 1, I'm telling it I want that to match the greater slope. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I like knowing what the hell that actually meant. So
so that's where that was. Now, when we do this process, here's when this comes up. See this output surface?
Mm-hmm.
You have that option right there. So you can build that whole road from the top down, including all of the subgrades. And then when you tell it that you want to output a surface, you can run it once, output a surface, and then when it asks you for a file name, give it that name, switch it back to top grade, and give it the finished grade if you'd like.
Okay.
All right. So that's one thing you can do there. That would probably be my approach.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to point out was on this template, when you are, let's say this is the top of the, that's a 20-foot lane for whatever, that's the top of the ground. All right. Then if we add a subgrade, and let's just call it, well, we'll go ahead and match the 20 feet. We'll use inches. And that was, let's say an 8-inch, you can have multiple. So I can say 8-inch and then 12-inch for the other one.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, our horizontal offset is 0. It's this distance is 20 feet. And then, you type in the, whatever it happens to be. All right. But then down here, you've got some more super elevation settings. And this talks about the bottom of the subgrade. How does it behave? And you can have that subgrade pivot at a different spot on these things, the lows and high sides, and put a maximum slope after it's pivoting. You can limit that so that the subgrade will roll with it or not. If you type special, that's where you're going to give these percent. You're going to specify the percents. Otherwise, it's going to go parallel to the top surface. Okay.
Okay.
So you might give that a shot and see if you can get a good understanding of that, and just pay attention that and I won't say that, but when it comes back, when you run the process, switch it right here.
Okay.
And that only that only happens after you hit the OK button.
Okay.
Oh, in fact, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to now.
Let's run that super elevation diagram.
Yeah, that's what I was looking to do. And I was thinking it was from there, but it's not. I need to draw right here, sorry. And that would be here. And that should be fine. Let's do this. Let's put this one up here. Sure. So there's now my new one.
Oh, there we go.
Got it?
Oh, now look at the other one stuck at 0.
This one. Whoops.
That was my first problem.
And that's the left shoulder. Well, the left shoulder is 0.
Not the whole way.
That's that 2-foot part, right?
Oh, that's the left.
That's the left shoulder. That's, well, no. That's the right shoulder. I mean, that's the layer that it becomes. Left shoulder, right shoulder.
That thing stayed 0 the whole time. Let's see what the contours look like. Did the contours look like that thing? No, see the contours at 2% coming out of there.
Yeah.
See, I think it's an issue with the way it's drawing it.
Yeah, but I'm wondering about if I draw superelevation diagram. All right, let's see. The left shoulder, center line, right shoulder.
Oh, what about that ditch back? That should be ditch front.
Yeah. Is this 21? So that's all right. Should that work? Let's try that one now. We'll come up here, put it down. Can't open the centerline file. We need to pick the centerline file. Now what have we got?
Right there.
Looking like what we need, right?
Yes.
There it is, normal. There's full. It gets to full. There's a runoff there. It goes to full. And then starts to come back.
Okay, so it looks like it's probably building it right the whole time and just drawing it wrong.
Could have been. Yeah, I mean, after we fixed the toggle with that.
Yeah.
That little one thing. And yours could have been as well, I think. I mean, I'm not sure what's happening there, but that looks like, see, that looks like it flipped it up to start with.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it's just a matter of paying attention to where and what the first, you know, those points that you want to have super. So again, here's the way you would see this normally happen. And I appreciate what you're wanting to do, and it's because of that, because of, you know, what you're trying to stake out. So when you go to then do the top, and you're going to now define the top, the next one up, then you need to edit your profile so that you raise that up the number of inches, you know, to get that. And if these widths and slopes change on that top part, may or may not, they're probably just a uniform thickness through there. But sometimes I've seen subgrades go in with flat bottoms and the tops are sloped to match the crown. So, you know, just pay attention to whatever's going on there. But the way that this is normally approached in this whole system is you build the whole road from the top of the ground.
Yep. I appreciate that too.
You know, top of the ground down. But that's also because, you know, as a designer, and you're not the one designing this road, but if you, well, I mean, maybe you are, but typically if you're going to stake something out, you're going to inherit the design from somebody else. But as the designer, you're going to need those surfaces for all kinds of other things, you know, and you're going to maybe, you know, give it to your contractor so he can go out there and do the final paving, and he can do that with his machine control. And he's either going to dial down his subgrade thicknesses, and that's what a lot of folks did because they couldn't get people to model those subsurfaces. They could only get them to model the finished grade, and so they just go out there, they know where they're supposed to be, and they'll dial their blade down. But you know, this gives you the opportunity to do all of that and then output those different surfaces. And I think that one pull down where you can choose the top grade or bottom of subgrade.
Yeah.
I think that goes to the absolute bottom of all the subgrades is
Okay.
what the option is there. So if you're going to try to get that middle one, you'd have to do it, you know, when you draw those subgrade polylines, which is set, here, right in here, and you would, you know, you would identify. Now we don't have any subgrades, so it didn't
Right.
didn't
Okay,
have any subgrades to it. But you know, you would pick the ones that you want to output, and then that when it says draw those subgrade polylines, it draws them in. You know, just like here, that well, these are the triangles, but right there's a 3D polyline. You see it's on layer road break line. Now you can suffix those layer names with the actual grade point name. So that might be, you know,
okay.
center line or whatever subgrade name.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it would also come over here and it would do everything, including you put on those 4:1 side slopes to catch your cut and fills, and it will intercept, it will catch those subgrades where they run out.
We'll draw your daylight.
Exactly right. And so it draws all those things in here, and then you just isolate them by layer and build those as separate surfaces. Okay.
Yes.
So
do you have one more minute?
I'm at your disposal. Absolutely.
Okay, so let me open this drawing.
Yeah, well, save what you got here if you're gonna keep it. And remember, we changed the name to mod. So
yes, okay, so let's save that. Let's go open. Oops. So this guy right here. So when I was trying to draw my template here, wait, no, that's not what I'm trying to edit my template there.
Okay, go to roads, design template. There you go.
Not the one.
All right. If you wanted,
and if we were doing, I could not get when we were doing multiple surfaces, I couldn't get it to. It was one of these. Yes.
yeah, okay.
So you see this?
Yeah.
I couldn't get them to come all the way out to the edge.
Oh, okay. Well, let's take a look at it. So starting at the top, there's a 12-foot lane at that slope to EP. So that point right there is their edge of pavement. Okay.
Okay, so I put the curb at the wrong place, it looks like.
Looks like. So if I got a top of slope, see that's next. There's my shoulder. Now here's your curb. Now, instead of, you don't identify the point that it goes to, it's just done in order. So with it selected, move up, move up. There it is. Isn't that sweet?
Yeah, I was like, what in the world? And I knew that I had something simple wrong, so I didn't want to stop the class and go, what's going on here? But
you should. Now, and you can try this if you want, this median business, and that lets you build a median like on a boulevard. Which is okay. I'll tell you my approach to that, because when you do this median, I'm going to click this and you see, you got to just add, and then you got to type all of these things in, and you're basically drawing your way around it. It's maddening. It's hard to do. So what I typically do on these is, I'll go ahead and build this road and build that surface, and then I'll go in there and I'll draw in plan view. I'll draw the polyline edges that represent the median. And then I'll drape those. I'll do a 2D to 3D polyline by surface, and I'll drape it on that surface.
Yeah.
I'll do a 3D polyline offset, and offset it, just a skosh, a half a tenth, and raise it up 6 inches, bring another one back 6 inches in order. So that becomes my median. Now, that's one approach. Here's another neat little approach that somebody showed me once that I thought was really clever. I will tell you that it messes this up a little bit when you go to draw this as like a detail off on the side.
Yeah.
Because of the way everything's working inside, it sort of flips some things around, but it'll, and they may have fixed it by now, I haven't tried it yet. But if you want to create a median here, if I go right up here, before I start doing this, I'm sitting on the front of it. So I'm going to do a curb. But this time, and I'll choose this standard one that we had before, but instead of left, I'm going to go right. And I'll just call that median or whatever. And okay, so there it is. I need to move that one. No, this one. I need to move up. There it is. Yeah, see how it screws that up a little bit right in there? But actually what I need to do, it needs to be, I thought I had done that.
I thought you did too.
Well,
apparently I didn't fix it.
Yeah, it used to work just fine. I don't know why. But anyway, it used to go like a back-to-back. And like usually I would put it, maybe I would put in a little bit of a grade, and then I would put this, well, no, let me see. Yeah, no, I still would want it. I want this curve to be backwards. Let's add a little 0, 1 foot, and we'll just call it AP1. All right, now we'll take this one and go down 1. All right, so I still want that to be that. Well, it looks like they broke it on me. It used to work. It works in 2020.
Yeah.
But you can see, so you would imagine this guy being over here and this guy being over there, and it's sort of back to back, and it functions like a median.
Sure.
And so anyway, that's just that's just trying to be out of the box a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Ken, I certainly appreciate your time. And
well, absolutely. And like,
as late as it is.
Yeah, well, like I said, I work out of the house, and I do this all the time. If I'm not doing that, I'm watching Open Roads Designer YouTube videos, figuring out how to do all this crap over in Bentley.
Oh yeah.
So it's.
I started my CAD career in MicroStation.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I just say I will admit it's my preferred platform, and it's not because, and I love Carlson. In fact, I worked for Carlson. I was a Carlson employee for a number of years. But I too started my career. I started down in Houston, Texas. When I got out of college, I went down there in 1984. Worked for a big surveying company called ServCon. They had 21 4-man survey crews. Each crew had their own truck. We had gas pumps at the office building. We all had a full set of gear. And our president, Jim Ellett, he came out of Missouri originally, but he went to 2 other schools in the country outside of the local Texas schools to try to recruit people. One was Purdue, because he wanted to get surveyors out of that. They had a good program at Purdue. And the other was at Virginia Tech, which is where I'm from. And so it sounded really great and exotic, and it was. And he was a great boss to work for, and I learned a whole lot down there. But we started, the only CAD stuff that we had, it was all done on Intergraph machines, and we were a sister company to a larger civil engineering design firm. And it was all, and we had a data processing firm, and then I don't know, a marketing, some kind of something or other business related firm, and it was all owned by a holding company, you know, just a way to split it all up.
Sure.
But the computing there was done on these big, those big double-headed Intergraph workstations. It cost about $100,000 a piece.
Yeah.
And the plotter was this giant thing. It was about the size of a couple of dining room tables. It was a Versatech electrostatic plotter, and I mean, it was crude in terms of the resolutions on it. And we had a pen plotter that had just come out of CalComp, and it was one of those flatbed plotters, but it had a tilted bed, and we taped Mylar on a belt that when it had a couple of drums on it, and we gave it a starting point, said, hey, here's your 0, 0, here's the pen, now go. And we had to code in all of our own pin up, pin down, draw this distance, draw that, you know, it was just massive, but it was done with Intergraph, which then evolved into, you know, the Bentley brothers broke out MicroStation, all that. So that's my origins, but I've also been using AutoCAD since it has been on the market, and used some of these other, in particular, surveying programs, because, you know, my degree is actual civil engineering, but you know, Virginia Tech did not have a surveying degree, but I took all of my electives were in surveying, geodesy, photogrammetry, land development, everything that I could do with that. And I was really just going to be a surveyor in those days, because I thought I would really like being outside all the time. And then once they found out I had my degree and could do this stuff in the office, they wouldn't let me back out anymore.
That's why I started my own company, because they wouldn't let me out because I got my license. They're like, all right, well, you're here. And I'm like, no,
well, good for you. Good for you. So yeah, I have a fondness for it. And over the years, and of course with MicroStation, my wife is a CAD designer, and she works for a really large company, Civil and Environmental Consulting, and or Civil and Environmental Consultants is the name of their company. And they own a bunch of these little companies they bought up all over the country, but headquartered here. And they do landfill, land development, some road design, your typical consulting firm. And and she's a Civil 3D absolute wizard. Of course, I've used that as well, and I'm a certified instructor in it with Autodesk. So I know the product, and the reason I still prefer the Bentley stuff over all of it is because it's, as far as a platform goes, it's more stable. I have way fewer crashes on the software. And as you know, there's frustration there. So, and it happens in all of it. I've even crashed Bentley, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, enough of that. And I do really like Carlson, and I really like it on IntelliCAD as opposed to AutoCAD. And again, I have AutoCAD. I can run Carlson on AutoCAD, but I prefer it on IntelliCAD because, again, the platform just doesn't crash out as bad.
Yeah.
And it's finally gotten to that point. Several years back, it was tough with IntelliCAD. So they've gotten.
I got it with IntelliCAD first because it was cheapest, and it kind of it drove me. I'm used to the where you can, like, if you did a command, you could go back and get that command really easily, and now you can still arrow up on this stuff, but it doesn't give you all the stuff. And I can't remember exactly what it, but that drove me crazy for a little while. But now I'm just like, okay, it's fine.
Well, now you can still do this though. If you right click.
I use that all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, that is great. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use that all the time because I can't do that other stuff. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that you may be looking to do is you can still do that. That's your F2. where it brings up the command history, and you can copy and paste and do all kinds of things with it. And that's also the same as just scrolling this. You can roll that with there. So, but anyway, and this used to have limitations on the plotting with layouts and viewports, and there were some things that I would have to do. I would do most of my work over here, and then for plotting I'd switch it over into AutoCAD to actually do my plots. But now I don't have to do any of that. They've really come a long way with it, so I'm quite impressed. I do like it. I still have a fantastic relationship with all the guys at Carlson, from Bruce Carlson all the way down to the secretary that answered the phone.
Yeah.
They're a great bunch of people. And keep that in mind. They are available to you as a resource for tech support, free of charge.
Yes.
But
I've called them plenty of times. As a matter of fact, I asked them a couple of years ago, I said, is there a way to do this? And they said, no, but we'll put it on our wish list. And I got an email about 3 months ago saying, hey, I wanted to let you know that's coming out in our 2022 version. I'm like,
they're that way. And there's
amazing.
And there's a lot of things, for instance, that to me, let's see, under Surface design pad template. No, that's absolutely what we would use to do pad designs, even sloped pads and such. But then ponds, to me, it's the same thing. Or here it is, the real one, the stockpile pond and pit volumes. That's nothing in the world more than two surface volumes, but somebody said, this is all I ever do. Can you just make me a command that, can do all that? So they did, they accommodated it. So it's, I got to give him credit for that. I will tell you a real quick anecdotal story, but Bruce's nephew, David Carlson, is the chief programmer for all this. And he works out of the Boston headquarters up in Watertown, Massachusetts. And he's absolutely brilliant. His degree in computer science is from Berkeley, UC Berkeley. He's just brilliant. You can bring him these ideas. So he knew nothing of engineering and surveying or any of that kind of stuff. He just knew how to code. And so he would get people to say, well, tell me what it is you want to do, and I'll do this to make it. So, of course, over the years, he's certainly learned quite a bit about engineering and stuff.
He's the one, he was the last guy to email me back on my tech support question.
Oh, yeah. So, but like I said, he's got a cousin, I think it is. Yeah, because might be his brother. I think it's his cousin, Todd. But Todd's one of those kind of I wouldn't say he's a kiss off. I mean, he's very good and he's all that, but he was like, oh, hey, give me a job at your company. That's great. I'm gonna go out and have a lot of fun. And he's very, very sociable. David, you gotta sort of put him in his own little room.
Yeah, he's a coder.
Yeah. But the weird thing is, I watched him do a YouTube video on let's see, what was it? I think it was where you automatically elevate lot lines and building pads based on road profiles and such. And so to me, I'm very visual. That's why, I would do that. I did that quick profile, and I try to look at the surfaces, and I try to see this stuff, and you did the section editor, so we can see what's going on. And I don't need to know the numbers. I need to see the trends. I need to see, I can look at that and say, that's behaving, that's not, that's what we want to do. He's entirely the opposite way. He sees in numbers, and he would do something like that. And to verify that a road generated the 3D center line or the edge of pavement or whatever correctly, he would, do this little, drawing inspector, and then let's see, turn on his elevation. So there it is. And then he would point to this stuff, and you know, and walk it up the line and reading off those numbers that are showing up there in that little box. And that's how he knew that it was correct. Right. And that was so strange and interesting to me. And it's the same way, like when I design roadways, I don't, you know, I don't use K values. A lot of road designers, well, that's the only thing they use to govern their vertical curve layout is a K value. Or same thing with a horizontal curve. Some people, instead of, you know, they want to say, well, I know I know how big the radius should be to make that curve go where I want it to go. I'm a little bit odd there. I don't use the K values for verticals, but even on the horizontals, I can visualize a curve better if I see the tangent distance instead of the curve distance, because I know where my PI is. And so I can estimate my tangent distance back and ahead of that PI. And that's, oh, okay, that's where my curve's going to start. That's going to tell me. You know, other people can, well, the curve I want is a certain, you know, such and such a radius curve. Well, I don't know what that's going to be until I try it, and I try several ones and look at it, you know. So it's just a difference in perception. And I thought that very interesting with David, because he's, like I said, he's so brilliant and so accommodating, and, you know, always willing to push this envelope. And
I think they do. Honestly, I love Carlson. I love the company. If they weren't in Kentucky and I was ready to retire, I might go to work for them for 5 years. So,
well, you could probably do it from out there though. So keep that in mind if you ever get the urge. Trying to think of who else there. Who is your Carlson rep? No, not your reseller, but your rep. Do you have a Northwest guy, or is Lad Nelson out of Iowa?
No, let's see. Guy? His name is, let's see, it's on my phone here.
It's not Jim Parsons. I can't remember if Jim.
It's Jim. No, it's not Lon Watson. Although I've used him.
Yeah, he's tech support back in Kentucky, and he's really good too.
Okay, what is his name? His name is Jim Reinbold, maybe?
Oh yeah, Reinbold. Okay, yeah, know him very well. And I'm sorry, I couldn't remember if he was in your region or not, because they've sort of gerrymandered all of their stuff.
I think he's in Denver.
Could be. I'm trying to think of, why would they assign you to him instead of Lad Nelson? Lad's out of Des Moines, Iowa.
I'm Idaho.
Yeah, well, I know, but duh. Denver is in Colorado. I'm thinking he was further east than Lad was in Iowa, but no. Okay, so Jim's there. David Sandberg was out of Dallas, and he used to run all the way up to Canada from Texas. He had that whole center swath.
Oh, wow.
Of the states. But yeah, but anyway, Jim, you know, they're all great guys. Now, Jim's more of a sales guy. David Sandberg out of Texas, and Lad Nelson in particular out of Iowa. They're very good technically. They're previously, you know, they have worked as engineers. They were both PEs and then worked for Carlson. I think Jim used to work as a sales guy for Eagle Point way back in the day.
Oh, wow.
As did, you know, most of these guys. He and Scott Griffin, Lad Nelson also worked for Eagle Point. Several of those guys came from Eagle Point back when Eagle Point used to have a competing product.
I remember.
And then they sort of went out of business, sort of, when Autodesk finally came out with Civil 3D. And then Autodesk bought Eagle Point, and Eagle Point had developed a bunch of tutorial modules and sort of kind of little setup helpers that would run inside of Civil 3D. So they sort of, you know, shit the directions. But all these guys from Eagle Points came over to Carlson and had been there, gosh, 20 years now.
Well, yeah.
Um,
When I worked at a mapping company doing drafting, we used Eagle Point on top of our Intergraph system.
oh yeah, yeah, I remember they had them both platforms even.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of what did we use. We used Terra Model back when it was from a company called Plus3. Now Trimble owns Terra Model, but
Trimble owns
anyway,
everybody. It drives me
yeah,
crazy.
they do.
But
So,
man, their instruments, I just love their instruments.
well, I know, and it's hard to beat, and you know, it's not like you can disagree with their politics and say, well, I'm going to show you, I'm going to go out and buy a bunch of Sakia stuff. Well, you know, joke's on me if I do
Yeah.
that. So,
I'm making
so
half the money because I can't go as fast.
that's right. So, you know, you're doing it right. You're doing what you need to do. So anyway, but Trey, what I guess the point to make about all of that to wind it home is that A, Carlson's available for tech support. B, MSoft and i.e. me, you know, we're also available because you've been in a class, you've got access there. Pop me emails, give me a phone call, do whatever you need if you got a question on some of this stuff, and you
I
know
appreciate
we'll take it from that. So
that.
okay,
Yes, sir. I
so
definitely appreciate your time and um,
absolutely.
yeah, I do hope to take some other classes from you. I would like to take a modeling class.
Okay,
You know, for machine control. You know, I know how to model stuff. I just don't know if I know how to
right,
do it for
right.
machine control.
Yeah, and there's a couple of little things that are things to they're sort of nuanced with it. And in fact, I've got a class coming up next week in that, but they're geared for contractors, and that's sort of a different approach as opposed to designers. I would love to be able to teach them from the design standpoint so they really know what is going on, whereas these contractors approach it from, if you've ever seen much of the Carlson Civil under the site net menu,
Mm-hmm.
it's basically that on steroids. It's the construction module, or if they buy the standalone product, it's called Carlson Takeoff. And it's very good, and it isolates them, and it encapsulates their the user from having to know anything other than, hey, here's where my design stuffs are on these layers, my existing stuff's on these layers. Bing bang boom, hit the go button and make sure it's okay. So it's, you know, in the one hand, it's enabling for somebody who might not be able to do anything with it otherwise, but on the other hand, it's limiting.
Yeah.
So that's, in my classes, I try to open up pull the curtain back a little bit more so they can get a little depth on it. So
what what would you suggest I take to learn that class? Or is there another one?
well, yeah, I mean, you could certainly, but it sounds like, I mean, the only thing really that I'm trying to think if there's anything. See, because that class, and I tend to do that almost a custom each time. And this next week coming up, I'm going to be doing it the takeoff way instead of the actual modeling way. It's really, I've got another class that I haven't taught in quite a while because we wait for interest to peak up, just called advanced modeling. And we also have an advanced road building, which would be more about what we just did this session, but everybody's ready to hit the ground running at that point. So that particular class that we're talking about, though, is called 3D machine control. And that's the one and I tend to do it from the takeoff menu sets, the construction module menu sets, which has all of the same civil tools. And civil has all of the same SiteNet tools or takeoff tools under the SiteNet menu. So it's just a different approach. And what you have to be aware of when you're preparing for this for machine control processing is a couple of things. is just like you're doing with the roadway here and you're going down the bottom of the subgrade. Understand if that's what your contractors are needing, if they need that bottom of the subgrade, then you need to give them that surface.
Mhm.
Or they need to know that what they're getting is the top surface.
Have
And
to
then
get
if they're
down
just going to, yeah, and if they're just going to do a dial down, then that's fine. But then what really happens is it doesn't really address the edges very nicely.
there. Right.
You know, it just cuts it down. They still have to then go back and fix the edges and build that up. And now they're ready to start going up with the road materials and go from there. So, but this one, you know, we introduced or focus on things like, you know, topsoil stripping and replacement. We can deal with rock, you know, over excavation, you know, for different strata. And there's, you know, there's a geotech module. There's also that's included in takeoff as part of that overall package. So it can accommodate where those things are. So it, you know, it aggregates out all of the cut and fill volumes based on those different materials. And then when you're preparing a surface for the controller on these pieces of equipment, you have to be aware of, although it's getting less and less as time goes on, but they used to have, you know, a limitation on how much data they could hold.
Uh-huh.
And so I had a outfit, big engineering outfit out on the East Coast that was doing a nuclear power plant expansion. And, you know, they had something like, I want to say 60 some acres worth of really fine grained surface modeling that they did, and they couldn't fit it all on the equipment, and they were trying to do it all in one spot. So, you know, how to separate those surfaces into individual pieces that will fit, and or how to you know, decimate that surface. You can, and what they call simplify the surface, and based on differing algorithms as to how many triangles that you're allowed to throw away from that and still keep the integrity of the surface done.
Sure.
But really what their biggest problem was that they just overdid the, basically to simplify it, if you were doing a square parking lot that is one planar surface, the only thing you need are the four corners. And well, that's not exactly true either, but anyway,
I get where you're saying.
yeah,
Exactly.
you could technically represent that square parking lot with two triangles.
Yeah.
Well, they were basically, you know, spraying it with points and putting thousands and thousands of points along there, which were just unnecessary.
Yeah.
So,
Just
you
like
know,
you were
that's
saying
sort
the
of,
other day, would densify your brake
yeah,
lines.
yeah, exactly right. Yeah, you'll say there was, I don't know, did you ever, you're a surveyor, did you, of course, I'm sure you're aware of POB magazine, but did you ever read a magazine called American Surveyor?
Yes.
Mark Cheeves is the editor there. Well,
Yes.
I had written a series of articles for him. I think we got up to 5 and I got too busy to do it, but it was called Model Behavior. It was a column I had in every issue, and it took on a lot of those things, like how to model surfaces and how to deal with if the only thing you have are contours, how to get away from this idea of, you know, there's a certain number of people out there that will say, they'll generate a surface and they've got real sharp looking contours, and they'll just, oh, well, I just turn on contour smoothing and that makes it all better. Well, no, you haven't changed your surface one bit. You've just
Right.
fudged the contours, you know. So how to, and that's why, you know, I always, and you heard me say in classes, my biggest approach is I really hate editing triangles, and I've done it, and I know why, and sometimes, but I'd like to go back and fix the data, don't fix the results. Fix
Yeah.
what caused the results. You know,
I
that's
got
my
it.
approach to it. So,
Yep.
but I had a series of articles. If I can dig some of those up, I'll send you that one I've got on that parking lot warping. I think you'll find it handy. They used to, you used to be able to download them out of the archives from the American Surveyor website. I don't know. Let me see if they're still there. I think it's been, yeah, see under the authors section. Yeah, see, it's been too long. I'm no longer on that list of active authors, but it used to be I was there and you could pull these articles out. But I'll send you that one in particular. I was thinking about that's sort of my approach to that, and you get ideas.
Yeah.
So, but now back to though your question as to how to get to learn that if there is a particular class. Well, that 3D machine control class is probably the one, but it would not be the one that's coming up next week, because that one's going into the layer based membership. And I've got one poor kid, she took the fundamental class, and she's really hopeful and eager and all that, but she's not an engineer. She's not really much of anything. She was just hired by a contracting company and said, well, here, we want you to start doing this.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And, I'm not saying you need a degree, but you need some exposure to, what is the center line? What's a profile? All this kind of stuff. So it's gonna be one of those, tiptoe through the tulips kind of sessions. So
yeah.
Anyway, well, I will, like I said, I'll pop you over that old article if I can dig it out of my archives. I think you might find it of interest, and that's really, I think you would have enough to understand it. It sounds to me like you know how that works, and I think if you understand the difference, and I'm sure you do, that when we see contours, those aren't the surface. That's
Yeah.
a picture of the surface and a representation of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people, I've seen them do it. I've seen them, edit drawn polylines that are contours and say, well, I'm fixing the surface here. But no, you're not touching the surface. So, but anyway, so I'll let you get on with that. Have a lovely evening. Like I said, stay in touch. Any other issues, gotchas, glitches, anything you want to try out, run it past me. And sometimes it's something I haven't done on my end either. So we'll both learn.
Very good. Well,
all righty.
Super appreciate your time. And I will definitely be signing up for more courses at some point. I'm starting to get my real busy season, so you might not hear from me for a while. But
yeah, well, I'll tell you something else too, Trey, if you're interested. I travel, so if we ever get out of this stupid lockdown situation, and I even traveled over to Indiana for a surveying office, the county surveyor's office, and it was, after everything was shut down, and we sat there in class with masks and everything else. But so I'm able to do that now. It doesn't make any sense economically for a single person to do it, because but when I do go out and have these custom classes, we call them, it's like a daily fee of like $17.50 a day, but that's no matter how many people you have. So if you've got 10 people in your company you want to train, that makes it a lot cheaper than sending 10 people to a $995 or an $1,100 class or whatever.
Yeah.
So so that's an option. So even if that's something that if you're a sole practitioner but you have a bunch of other people in the area, or maybe your surveyors association, or now, are you also an engineer? Are you strictly surveying? Okay. So yeah, so like your surveyor in the association or whatever, or get in touch with Jim Reinbold, tell him that tell him, first of all, I said well, I'm trying to think of an appropriate insult, but I'll try to keep it clean. Tell him I said hi, leave it at that.
Okay.
So but so so if it's ever a situation or a case where, if you want the surveying association, if they want to sponsor a 2 or 3 day, series of webinars as part of something that they're doing, maybe the state convention or whatever.
Yeah.
Keep all those things in mind, and we can certainly do that. And that makes it very, very cost effective,
Sure.
for them, because it's still just that flat rate. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, yeah, and then also the last thing is, instead of just the training, if you ever get a project that you're working on, you need some help, and you want to just, assign some consulting hours to it and then have the client pay for it, you can do that as well. I did a big subdivision for a client up in Buffalo, New York, and he's been using us that way for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. So
Yeah.
all of those things are open. Just keep them in mind. I'm not fishing for business. I'm busy, but it
No,
doesn't have to all be over Zoom. It can all, we can work all that kind of stuff out. So keep that
yeah,
in
I
mind.
do a lot of these subdivisions for this guy, and they're big lot subdivisions, so they're 5 to 10 acres,
Right.
and basically your basic roads, but the
Mhm.
guys who he has designing them are terrible. I mean, shoot, we had
Yeah.
5-foot cuts from the existing ground to the proposed, and the
Wow.
road, the contour or the lay of the land is fine. Just put a road on top of it, and he's got 5.5-foot cuts to this thing because
Jeez.
he didn't want to put a low point over here. I'm like, so half the time we're redesigning them anyway in the field or right before, I'll get out there and like, what are we doing here, guys? So
yeah.
So that's actually a pretty good idea if I could get the developer to,
Yeah.
and
So
kind of one of the reasons, I want to show them how we can do this stuff, how, some of the stuff he showed me in that class where you can just draw your vertical curve in there and you can just push this down and hold this and, and then, it's the famous vertical curve that starts at 27 plus 34, 65. I'm like, you can't put that in an
exactly.
even foot,
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
so
And
it all.
yeah, and especially if they've got any kind of savvy about them at all, the developers, and they usually do by now, and you can show them all this stuff and pretty much, real-time reaction, real-time changing on this stuff in the model. And you should be able to get somebody to say, well, hey, why don't we have you do this? And
Yeah. Well, and just the other day, when we were doing that intersection, I went out and staked the intersection. Well, before I went out and staked the intersection, I checked my intersection. They're 1.25 foot difference vertically.
uh-huh.
And I'm
That
like,
would be a
and
problem.
what happened was they changed the grade tying into this thing from a 0.8% to a point, or from 0.5% to a 0.8%, but they didn't change the other one. Well, you know
Didn't let me
what?
know
If you have RoadNet, it changes all that for you.
That's right. Absolutely.
Anyway,
So
I'll let you get to bed, and I'm gonna go have a beer.
I think I'm going to have my beer before I go to bed too.
All right.
So, that sounds good. All right, Trey. Take care now.
Thanks, Ken. Have a good night. Bye.
You too. Okay, bye-bye.